Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. We expect the world's richest people to be technologists, people who write code, build rockets, or invent products that change how we live. But frequently trading places with them at the very top of the billionaire index is a man who has never invented a single product. His name is Bernard Arnault. He isn't a designer, an artisan, or a visionary artist. He is a former construction executive and a highly aggressive corporate tactician. In the 1970s, Arnault was working in his father's construction firm in northern France. Construction is a notoriously grueling business. The work is capital-intensive, the competition is fierce, and the profit margins are razor-thin. If you want to make a fortune, it is a very difficult place to do it. Looking out at the broader French economy, Arnault noticed the country's legendary fashion houses. These were global icons of prestige, yet behind the scenes, they were operational disasters. They were bloated, highly inefficient, and frequently paralyzed by bitter infighting among the founding families. Arnault recognized something these families didn't fully appreciate. They possessed heritage. A new competitor could hire the best designers and buy the finest materials, but they could never replicate 100 years of Parisian history. Arnault viewed these hundreds of years of craftsmanship through a purely financial lens. To him, heritage was a commodity that could be extracted, packaged, and scaled, positioning a real estate developer to dominate an industry built on artistry. In 1984, a massive French textile conglomerate called the Boussac Group filed for bankruptcy. The political stakes were incredibly high. If Boussac collapsed, 20,000 domestic textile workers would lose their jobs. The French government was desperate to find a buyer to prevent a nationwide economic crisis. Arnault stepped up with a proposal. He promised the government that he would keep the failing textile mills running and save the workers' livelihoods. In exchange for taking on this massive liability, he demanded to purchase the entire Boussac empire for exactly 1 franc. The government agreed. Almost immediately, Arnault broke the promise. He fired 9,000 workers. He carved up the company, selling off the industrial textile plants and a disposable diaper division. By liquidating these parts, he generated $500 million in cash. The entire operation, the layoffs, the political maneuvering, and the liquidation, was a smokescreen. Arnault never cared about the textile business. He endured the process because buried deep within the bloated portfolio was a single, highly valuable jewel, the fashion house Christian Dior. The financial ledger reveals the final math. Arnault paid 1 franc to acquire the group. He made $500 million selling parts. After paying $43 million in worker severance, he netted over $450 million in pure cash. Oh, and he kept Christian Dior. The Boussac raid demonstrated that applying aggressive private equity tactics to legacy-driven industries could yield billions. He was paid hundreds of millions of dollars to acquire a world-class prestige brand, and he was just getting started. By 1987, the landscape shifted. 2 historic giants, the legendary trunk maker Louis Vuitton and the champagne producer Moet Hennessy, merged to form a massive new conglomerate known as LVMH. On paper, it was a powerhouse. In reality, it was paralyzed. The merger triggered a bitter, escalating turf war between the 2 founding family leaders, Henri Racamier and Alain Chevalier. The constant infighting created a total operational standstill at the executive level. Sensing blood in the water, Arnault approached Racamier and offered his support as an outside ally. Racamier gladly accepted, believing Arnault's capital would help him win the internal war. Instead, Arnault used the family chaos as a distraction to execute his own covert takeover. This flowchart illustrates the strategy. Arnault set up numerous anonymous shell companies, funneling massive amounts of capital to secretly buy LVMH stock. His holding companies secretly amassed a 43% controlling stake. With majority rights secured, Arnault sprang his trap. He legally ousted both founders, assuming absolute control of LVMH. The families were so busy fighting, they lost sight of the predator in their boardroom. Defeated and exiled from the empire his family built, Henri Racamier coined a nickname for the man who orchestrated the coup. He called him the Wolf in Cashmere. Arnault wore the title like a badge of honor. Exploiting the structural weaknesses and emotional blind spots of family-run businesses became Arnault's ultimate playbook. By systematically targeting these bitter internal divisions, he could capture global monopolies for a mere fraction of their true value. The driving economic philosophy behind LVMH is remarkably simple. In most industries, companies compete on product features or software efficiency. But Arnault treats heritage as a hard financial asset with an impenetrable competitive moat. You can hire the sharpest executives and raise billions in venture capital, but you cannot artificially manufacture time. If your brand wasn't founded in Paris in 1854, you can never compete on the dimension of history. That historical moat allows LVMH to price products based on their perceived lineage rather than the cost of leather or labor. It is the only market sector where consistent, massive margins are virtually guaranteed. He successfully separated the creative artistry of fashion from the cold financial mechanics of the business. Arnault proved that if you control the name on the door, history itself becomes a highly scalable asset class. This diagram shows the modern LVMH empire. Arnault clustered over 70 heritage brands, from Tiffany to Sephora, under one corporate umbrella. This structure de-risks high fashion. If clothing misses the mark, soaring revenues from spirits or jewelry easily cover the losses. By owning physical retail stores, LVMH controls its own distribution. There are no middlemen here. Arnault dictates the exact global image and engineers strict artificial scarcity across every continent. Bernard Arnault captured the luxury industry by standardizing the business of desire. He demonstrated that the ultimate arbiter of value isn't the artisan in the workshop, but the strategist in the boardroom.